Hello and welcome to Victory in Vegas, a betting MMA podcast. I'm Newsome and I'm with my co-host Namreka. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. About to launch the first one.
Yes, the first one starting on UFC 217. I really cannot wait for this card. It's probably the biggest card of the year so far. Um, so how it's going to work is myself and Namreka have listed our fights that we're wanting to bet or potentially a bet, and we're going to break those fights down for you guys. The other fights on the card will quick fire at the end. Not a lot of back and forth on that, just who we think's going to win, maybe a couple of reasons why, and how and what round, etc. So we'll jump straight in. Do you want to call the first one or shall I?
You go ahead. I ain't got nothing on this one anyway. The main event.
Cool.
So go ahead.
Yep, so we'll start the main event. We've got Michael Bisping and the return of GSP. So straight up, I've got this in a parlay of a fight later in the card that I'll talk about. But I've got 2.5 units on this fight to go over 1.5 rounds. Didn't really fancy taking a winner in this fight. I do lean Bisping. I think GSP with his layoff and stepping up a division and coming in to a fight with someone that's been continuously fighting since he started in the UFC. I just think GSP might run into some problems. I do think that he's still going to stick to his wrestling heavy game. The fights that Bisping has lost in his career, the majority of them have come via wrestlers that do take him down. Even though I think he has got a good get-up game, he does seem to come unstuck sometimes against a strong wrestler. And I do think GSP is going to box a little bit, but ultimately he's going to shoot. I'm not sure what he's going to have for Bisping on his feet. So I think Bisping knows it. I think a lot of people know it. I think he's going to shoot on him now. I think he'll have a bit of early success. I do think he'll get him down a couple of times. But as the fight wears on, if Bisping does keep standing up, popping his boxing off on GSP, using his leg kick, slowing him down, and really just hitting him in the face, I just think GSP is gonna hit a brick wall at some point in this fight and just think, what can I do now to beat Bisping? And I just think his mental game will just deteriorate as the fight goes on. So having said that, I wasn't totally confident. There is so many question marks around GSP. Has he been training since the layoff? What's he going to look like now? How is he going to handle stepping up to middleweight? How's Bisping going to handle his wrestling? I mean, GSP, I seen something on Twitter the other day. He's got the record for the most takedowns in the UFC. He was an absolute animal. So many question marks around the fight. But one thing I am sure of is it's going to go over 1.5 rounds. I got this leg of the parlay at minus 450. So big odds for obvious reasons, but the parlay actually produces quite a nice total figure. But yeah, I think at the start of the fight, GSP is going to use his takedowns. I think he will get Bisping down. Bisping will grow into the fight as it goes on. But by the time, GSP, I'm not worried about GSP finishing Bisping. I think Bisping's submission defense is too good, and it's something that GSP doesn't really look for too much anyway. I'm not worried about GSP knocking Bisping out. But by the time Bisping starts to take over the fight, Bisping does hold the power out of the two guys, and potentially we could see a Bisping knockout towards later another round. But by that point, this part of my bet is gonna have cashed anyway. So, although I am rooting for Bisping being an Englishman, at that point from a betting perspective, I'm not going to be too bothered. So yeah, really confident in my over 1.5. I do think, like I say, I think Bisping could knock him out, but I think with GSP's takedowns and the threat of the takedown might make Bisping a little apprehensive to fully go out and really push forward and throw the big shots in case he does get taken down. I think Bisping takes 3 or 4 rounds here, and I think he wins a decision. What about you?
Well, I think your over 1.5 is basically dead on. I mean, neither of them are good finishers. Even back when GSP was at 170, he was nowhere near a finisher, and now he's jumping up against quite a big middleweight in Michael Bisping. So as far as that bet goes, I think you've picked out a great bet. But as far as who wins, like obviously there's a lot of questions around GSP with the layoff, with the knee injury that he had just before the layoff as well. But Bisping is declining. He doesn't move around as much as he used to, and even against Dan Henderson, where you'd think he would use a lot more movement, he was very static. And
Yeah,
against GSP, I mean, it's going to be hard to defend those takedowns if you're not preemptively moving away from them. So I could see GSP getting his takedowns, and his top control is one of the best of all time. So I could see him stealing enough rounds to win the fight, but it's not something you can bet on with the layoff. It's 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 just you if you're gonna bet on something, you want to be sure that the guy who's gonna be stepping into the cage is the guy you've been watching tape on, and you have no idea with this layoff that that's gonna be the case.
yeah, I agree.
And obviously, the last time Bisping fought a really good takedown wrestler was Tim Kennedy, and he got taken down a lot in that fight. He got controlled a lot in that fight, and it was one of the worst performances against a wrestler that we've seen from Bisping. So if if GSP is still somewhat near where he was, I pick him quite confidently. But you don't know. There's nothing to go on. You can't bet it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I mean, it's really interesting because the lines did start. I think the best I saw Bisping at was plus 130, and now he's slowly edging his way. Well, it is a pick 'em now at some books. I think Bisping will end up the favourite by the time they fight on Saturday. But yeah, I agree. It's not something I was toying with betting Bisping. But now, now I've actually, got the list of my bets. It's something that I am glad that I've stayed away from because, well, for a start, I've got a thing about betting against, relentless wrestlers. I say it all the time, and anyone that talks to me on Twitter and stuff like that knows that I just hate betting against those guys because there's nothing worse than watching your guy that you bet on just get dumped and dumped
Well,
or
yeah.
just laid on.
Every takedown is like that bet slipping away.
Exactly. I absolutely hate it. So it was never going to be something that I bet on. So for me, like I said, and like you said, I'm really happy with my over 1.5 on this. I think that does come in. But my pick, for argument's sake, I'm going Bisping by a decision. What about
Yeah,
you?
my pick is GSP by decision with a big asterisk next to it. It's just like,
Absolutely. I ain't
yeah.
going to argue with you. Okay, we'll move on to the next one then. I'll let you call it.
Okay, so Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw. I know we're going against each other on this one, so it might get interesting. It's just, to me, Dillashaw he's been slightly declining since that first Burrell fight. It's subtle, and I think it's mostly to do with his gaining confidence in his striking. Like in that first Burrell fight, he was in and out. He'd throw a few punches and he'd get straight out. But in the second Burrell fight and in the Joe Soto fight and in the Dominic Cruz fight, he would stay in that pocket just a tad too long. Usually get clipped by something by guys like Soto, who are obviously nowhere near the fighter Garbrandt is. So to me, I feel like he's gonna get clipped. Garbrandt is one of the best counter punchers in the division, and if this was before Garbrandt beat Cruz, yeah, I'd be all over Dillashaw. But Garbrandt, he showed that he has a lot of intelligence in that fight. He didn't play Cruz's game, and I don't think he's going to play Dillashaw's game. So, and yeah, and like Dillashaw used to feint so much. It's almost disappointing watching him now. He doesn't throw those feints. He doesn't draw those early counters anymore. I just feel like that confidence that he gained from beating like what many were calling the pound for pound greatest in the world has actually gone to his head a little bit. And against Garbrandt, it's the wrong guy to be like that. He's one of the hardest hitters in the division, probably the sharpest counterpuncher in the division. And Dillashaw's never shown an amazing chin. Like, he got knocked out pretty spectacularly in the tough final against give me his name.
Dodson.
Dodson, there you go. Against Dodson, and I do think I'm not like 100% on Garbrandt. I could definitely see Dillashaw doing enough and avoiding enough to eke out some sort of decision, possibly a late stoppage, but I can't get past the fact that Garbrandt's going to clip him. So, yeah, and I have got a bet on this. I've got if I can find it, I got 1 unit on this. It's in a parlay with another fight we'll talk about later. That's basically a sure thing in my eyes, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
as much as a sure thing is gonna get. But
no, I'm laughing because it's true. I know the other guy is
all right,
definitely.
yeah.
But okay, yeah. I mean, I've got one. I'll just start off straight off the bat. I've got 1.5 units on Dillashaw. For what I try and pride myself in with reading lines and line movement and stuff. I got this one wrong. I jumped a bit too early. But it is what it is. It's not a huge difference. But yeah, I mean, a few things that I agree with you, and a few things that I don't. I do agree with you that Cody hits the hardest in the division. That's not a secret. That's fact. I do agree that if Cody hits him hard enough, TJ will go down, and can ultimately be the end of the fight. Again, I think that's a fact. But I mean, he will have to. I think he does have to clip him. I don't think it's going to be the case of he hits him with the first punch and he goes down. I think it'll have to be a bit of a combination. But ultimately, yeah, I wouldn't like to see that. But I mean, again, like you mentioned, the Dodson knockout and chin issues and things like that. I mean, dude, that was 6 years ago. He's not been knocked out since. And Dodson was an animal then. He's an animal now. He clipped him. He went down.
That's true. He has taken
absolutely
some good shots since that as well. You can't
yeah,
take
and I
that
mean,
away from him.
like I say, absolutely. If Garbrandt hits harder than Dodson hit then, and harder than Dodson hits now, so I mean, I sort of get that in a way, but he's not got chin issues. He just got caught, and
No, I don't think he's got a bad chin by any stretch. Just not a good enough chin to take too many clean shots from Garbrandt, which I don't think anyone really has. So that's.
But I mean, ultimately, I came up with this conclusion. It's just a bit of a theory that I've got when I was watching the tape, and I think when you're watching tape on this fight, the two pivotal fights that you have to watch in order to finally come up with the conclusion about who you're betting is both Dominic Cruz fights. Now, on paper, it says TJ loses a split decision, which is absolute bullshit. I watched that fight last week, I think, or the week before, and I scored 4 rounds to TJ. That was me maybe being a bit nicer to him, but absolute worst case scenario, TJ took 3 of those rounds. But even one of the judges scored it, 4 rounds to 1 for Dillashaw as well. So I agreed with that judge. So on paper, yes, he lost to Dominic Cruz by a split decision, but anybody that watches that fight knows that he didn't lose that split decision.
No, I scored it to TJ as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, the pivotal fight is that. Now, for me, this is just a theory that I believe. I think the Garbrandt and Cruz tape that everyone will have watched, if they're betting this fight or if they're not betting this fight or whatever, I think it's a bit of a trap because Garbrandt had the best performance of his career by an absolute mile. But also Cruz wasn't the same Cruz either. I think we saw a declined Cruz to what we saw against TJ and previously in his career.
I'm not quite sure we did. I just think he was someone who just didn't play into Cruz's usual game. He didn't come at Cruz. He was very surprisingly, if you'd watched his last fights, very patient. I mean, I think people expected Garbrandt to be the raging bull in that fight and come flying at Preux, get sidestepped and beat up, but he just waited. He waited on Preux. He made Preux lead, and Preux on the lead is quite sloppy compared to how he is when people come at him. So I don't think he was declined. I just think it was an awkward style matchup.
I'm not saying he was totally declined, but it's definitely not as sharp as a Preux of what we've seen previously. And I mean, the other side to that is, yeah, you know, like you say, Garbrandt didn't play Preux's game, but there's also an argument to say that Garbrandt, now in hindsight, was Preux's kryptonite. You know, styles make fights at the end of the day, and I just think that maybe trap's the wrong word that I used, but I just think that the tape of the Preux and Garbrandt fight is quite misleading to what I think we're going to see in this fight, because Preux has got that awkward, weird style where, you know, he throws. Well, he hasn't got a lot of technique to his strikes. You know, he's got that weird, awkward stance and throws winging hooks, and I think that just played way more into Garbrandt's game. I mean, I know Garbrandt's got a pro boxing record as well, so I think in this fight, though, I think when you look at the difference between the two fighters, yes, Dillashaw sort of changed his game up. You know, there's people arguing that he was on steroids and stuff before. I'm not too sure about that, but I think when you look outside the Dominic Cruz fights, I'm just not sure how much you can see of Cody Garbrandt's game to how he's going to fight with TJ Dillashaw. And what I mean by that is Garbrandt's knocking everybody out in the first round. So apart from that Cruz fight, I'm just not confident that I couldn't be confident in a bet on Garbrandt personally, because I've not seen him fight for longer than apart from the Henry Briones fight, just thinking about it. But again, in that, you know, yeah, he won, and he won by decision comfortably, but wasn't spectacular. Yes, he wasn't at the level that he is at now, but I think in regards to previous fights, TJ's fought the better competition. He's gone the distance a few times. He's got more UFC experience, and in his 5-round fights as well, the guy hits like over 100 strikes per fight, which is just absolutely mental for him to have that consistent level of striking. I know Garbrandt was patient against Cruz, but I mean, I think he only ended up hitting about 60 to 70 strikes in that entire fight. I just think in this fight, I think TJ's going to do more. He's going to throw more, but Garbrandt's going to throw the harder shots. So it's a bit of a toss-up between... Well, personally, I think if Garbrandt doesn't knock him out, I think he's going to be in trouble.
Well, I think
not like major trouble.
I think he will be outpointed. Like, if you just count the strikes, TJ will land more. I mean, have you noticed that TJ does, like, he does throw too many punches in his combos these days? Like, he'll land a few shots, but then he'll stay right in there and not move as much as he used to. Like,
yeah, but I think with TJ in this fight, he ain't going to be standing in front of Garbrandt because he's not daft. I mean, everybody that he's fought before. I mean, I'm just looking at his record now. Lineker, he was a bit more active, moving about with, because he knew that Lineker had that knockout shot. Assunção, yeah, he did stay in front of him a little bit, but Assunção hasn't got that knockout power. Both the Barao fights. From then, I think TJ was a different fighter. I do agree with you in respect of TJ has changed a bit. He was a knockout artist, and now he's more of a point fighter. But the one thing TJ has got is good fight IQ. You know, he knows when to stand, when to go to the ground, when to move in, when to move out. Should he aggress? Should he, fight a counter attacking style? I think he has got really good fight IQ, and for me, I cannot see him putting himself in that position where he hands it Garbrandt. Yes, Garbrandt could catch him, TJ being, fighting a good fight, but I can't see him handing that to Garbrandt on a plate, just staying in the pocket. But that's the other thing as well. I mean, he's a D1 wrestler, TJ, and I know Cody's a wrestler, and I know he's, the guys at Team Alpha Male are really good as well in regards to the ground game, but ultimately TJ's the better wrestler. And if you look at that Lineker fight, his takedowns were perfect, and he even took Assunção down a few times well. And Assunção is a tough dude to take down. I think at some point in this fight, if it does get a bit too much for TJ, he's got that to fall back on as well. So, I mean, for me, I think TJ's just got more paths to victory than Garbrandt. I think if it goes to a decision, TJ outpoints him. I disagree sort of a little bit with what you said earlier that, TJ might be able to knock him out. I don't see that. I really don't see TJ knocking him
It
out.
would have to be late and mostly on stamina. If one thing Cody Garbrandt did show in the Preux fight is that he has to take these long gaps in his output to regain some of his stamina before he goes.
Well, I don't think any of them's going to gas out in this fight. They might get a little tired and slow down a little
It
towards
depends.
the end of the fight.
TJ
But
can put on a hell of a pace when he wants to, but I don't think it will go that long. I think 3 rounds at best. That's me thinking Garbrandt's going to win though. So
yeah, absolutely. And if that's your thoughts, I sort of get that.
if TJ wins, it's going to be either a decision or maybe a 5th round stoppage, sort of like how the first Barao fight went, where he keeps on the pressure, and then he finally lands something that ends the fight. But yeah, I think TJ's
see, I'm
decision,
the
if you're going
opposite.
that way, makes sense.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure I'm not sure TJ shows that poor of an IQ to put himself in a position where Garbrandt is gonna unload on him. So, I mean, for me personally, that's why I think it's gonna go the stretch. And when you look at the strikes difference of how much they actually land, I just see TJ outpointing him. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I'm going to go with 3 rounds to 2 for TJ. I don't think Garbrandt will put a poor performance for him to only take 1 round out of the 5. But ultimately, yeah, I mean that's my.
I expect TJ to possibly take the first round. I basically see TJ winning this fight on points up until the point where Garbrandt catches him. That's how I see it going at the moment. Or Garbrandt catches him multiple times and picks up those rounds through landing clean enough punches that he actually is hurting TJ. But he's not going to outland him at any point, like on pure punch stats.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, this isn't going to be one of those fights where me and you disagree and we're going to argue because, I mean, like you said, it's a close fight, and I agree. And it's that close of a fight. I had a heavy lean in TJ, and it was a heavy enough lean that I couldn't pass on plus money. I got it at plus 132. I couldn't pass on that plus money for a fight that I believe should have been closer to a pick'em, so I had to bet it. But having said that, I've also strategically bet it because I've max bet another fighter on this card that we'll talk about soon, that the profit that I will make from that max bet actually covers the stake that I've bet on TJ, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my heaviest lean on the card that I've max bet, if that bet wins, then if TJ loses, I haven't lost anything. So, and then I've got a couple of other bets as well that I'm hoping to make my profit for. So that's my worst case scenario. But like I say, I do think TJ wins. But it's not one that I'm gonna hate on anybody for picking Garbrandt.
Yeah, I got
it's gonna be close.
Minus 161, and it wasn't enough that I had to put something else in there to just move the odds slightly in my favor. Like the parlay is minus 102. So I got 1.1 units on that just to clear that unit profit. But
yeah,
that's it's out of all my bets on this card, it's only I've got 4 bets and it's my 3rd most confident. So it's not like my night is not relying on Garbrandt. So
absolutely.
It's a close fight. I don't know if it's a gut feeling or which I shouldn't go on. I know. That's not good betting advice. Oh yeah, my gut says he's gonna win. Yeah, great.
Yeah, well, my eye says TJ's gonna win. So.
Yeah, mine too. It's I feel like I could see TJ landing 3 punches in a combination, but then going for 4 or 5 and then getting clipped between that gap. So it's like, when you get a knockdown when both guys land punches, but one lands the one that does the damage. I can see it going down just like that here.
Oh, that'll hack me off that.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, have you got anything more to add on on Cody?
Not really. No, I think I've said all I got to say on that.
Yeah,
We didn't
same
even get
for
into
me.
an argument, so we're okay.
No,
So
not
far,
on that one.
not yet, not yet.
Well, yeah, the arguments in a couple of fights, I think. So I'll call the next one then. And this is the one that I've got my max bet on for the night. So it's Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Rose Namajunas. So naturally, I've got 5 units on Joanna. I got that nice and early. Sky Bet had they had some markets on, and it was fights before the end of 2017, and I spotted Joanna at -300 against Rose. And as I spotted it, I thought, I'm pretty sure this has already been announced, and Sky Bet probably don't know about it, because with it being a potential bet, I don't think they actually put the odds out that serious. So I had a look, and it was actually scheduled. So I thought, right, okay, I'll just buy my time, because I'm not sure how it's going to play out with the line. And I seen some guy on Twitter post some lines from an Australian bookie at like -450. I thought, right, okay, here we go, it's time to hit it. I didn't normally like dropping 5 units on a -300 fight, because it actually only pulls me back 1.6 units, which isn't great from a 5-unit bet. But Joanna is an absolute beast in this women's division, and I just don't see how Rose beats her in any fashion.
I know
I mean, Joanna.
you were picking at me for wanting to do the same on John Lineker last week.
Yeah, but John Lineker was -550, and from my personal opinion, I don't think John Lineker was that much of a better fighter than Vera, as Joanna is
No,
much better fighter
fair
than
enough.
Rose, if you get what I mean. So, and it's for less money. But Joanna's fought, she in the last fight, it was really interesting, because she fought out of her comfort zone. Joanna's the one that normally likes to be the aggressor and really put it on people. She's got world class Muay Thai, but it was a bit different for her last time. She fought the aggressor in Andrade, and for the first time, from what I've seen anyway, had to really fight on the back foot for the entire fight, and she did it absolutely perfectly. It was a borderline perfect performance, something that we've come accustomed to see with the likes of like Demetrius Johnson in regards to that solid performance. And to say that she was out of her comfort zone, that's the first time she's had to fight like that and over 5 rounds, and I think she took all 5 rounds as well. It just shows the level of quality that you're getting from Joanna. And so that's the aggressive attacking style that she's faced. And then if we move on to the ground, she's beaten Gedalia twice, who I know Andrade has just run through her, but Gedalia is an awesome wrestler, and she managed to get Joanna down a few times as well. But Joanna pops straight back up. So I mean, this is what I just don't understand, and I just cannot see what Rose Namajunas can do to Joanna to win this fight. She's not going to beat her stood up. Joanna is a world class Muay Thai champion. She's an animal. And if Rose takes her to the ground, which Joanna doesn't really give many fighters that opportunity to take her down. If she does take her to the ground, she's shown that she can get up, she can pop straight back up as well, underneath Gedalia, who was one of the best wrestlers in the division. And I know Rose is probably better all round compared to Andrade. Well, maybe not Andrade actually, because she proved that against Gedalia. But she's probably a better all round fighter than Gedalia. But still, that still doesn't scream, just because she's a better all round fighter, that she's going to go out and beat her. And I just don't know. I really cannot see a path to victory unless Joanna trips up, breaks her ankle or something like that in the middle of the fight. I don't know. I can't see it. And it's a bit of a poor breakdown from me, but that's just the way it is. I think Joanna's going to press her. She's going to put it on her. I think Rose is going to be in for the shock of her life. I don't think. Well, she's never been in the cage with anybody like that, so she doesn't fully know what's probably going to happen to her. I don't see this going all the way. I think at some point, possibly in the championship rounds, maybe 3rd round, I think Joanna's going to knock her out. So yeah, I've got 5 units on Joanna. I get 1.6 units back. what I was just previously talking about, the TJ fight, my 1.6 units covers my 1.5 unit stake on TJ. So that's my strategic bet. But yeah, I don't see how Joanna loses this fight. What about you?
Yeah, I'm basically the same as you on this one. The only one little thing I see that Rose Namajunas has that no one else has against Joanna is that she can actually kick. I mean, if you look through the entire career of Joanna, I'm going to call her that because I can't say her last name, but apart from Laterno, who kicks but not very hard, she hasn't fought a kicker. And I do agree that this fight, I think she justifies the crazy odds that it's got to, but that's the only slight thing I see Namajunas having a chance here.
But
But
then, what's Muay Thai? Muay Thai's kicking, it's not something that Joanna's
yeah,
not
true.
going to be accustomed to. If I think if Rose comes out and starts putting it on her with kicks, I think she'll love that. She'll love that firefight.
But yeah, I don't see Namajunas doing anything. In fact, I see Namajunas breaking in this fight, as she has done in fights before, slightly in the Kalkowitz fights and in the Esparza fight. When things really start to go against her, she'll quickly lose confidence and almost look like she doesn't want to be there anymore. And I think
Yeah,
that's going to
I
happen
agree.
here. I think maybe third, fourth round, the pressure and the constant attacks from Joanna are gonna they're gonna wear her down and probably force the finish. So yeah,
Yeah, I think she'll curl up.
we're in complete agreement on this one.
Yeah.
It's not yeah. By the time I looked at the odds, it seemed to be creeping up to about minus 600, I think.
Or is it really that bad now?
Yeah, I think the best you can get is minus 500 on one book, but everywhere else is like 550 up to all the way up to minus 600. So
I think I tipped a few people off at the time. I mean, I was transparent with it. I've got my website, which is newsomemma.co.uk. For anybody that didn't know. But as soon as I post a bet, put a bet on, I'll post it on Twitter. I'll post it on my website. And I was really transparent with the bookie where I'd got it at the time. I thought it was good odds. I also shared it again a couple of weeks after when it hadn't changed lines after I bet it. Other places were having it minus 400, minus 450. So I posted on Twitter again just saying, look, anyone that wants to bet Joanna, take her now at Sky Bet, she's still minus 300. I know a few people did. I'm not saying that they did because of me, but a few other people capitalised on that good line as well, and I think it's going to pay off. To be honest, I'm not sure I would have touched her at minus 500, minus 600, not because I don't think she's going to win, but just those lines.
yeah, just
You know
well,
what I mean?
yeah, MMA in it, anything can happen.
Yeah,
She could just
exactly.
get cut in the first 20 seconds. She could break her ankle. Yeah, those odds you don't touch, but minus 300. Yeah, I wish you'd have told me straight away, and then I'd have gone it too.
Oh, you should set notifications on your Twitter for when I tweet, and you'd know, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, all right.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, I've got nothing more to say on that. Joanna by TKO.
Okay, yeah, same. TKO round three, round four, maybe round five. Joanna never stops, so
Yeah, I'm not sure it makes it to round five. To be honest, like you said, I can see her quitting before then, turtling up, curling up, and
yeah,
just getting finished. Okay, I'll let you call the next one.
that's Thompson versus Masvidal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't I you know this pre-tape. I was on Thompson. I was thinking his range will give Masvidal problems, but Masvidal seems to have got a hell of a lot better at pressuring and just getting in the places he needs to be to land shots. It's not the same guy who would slip a decision against guys like Benson Henderson or Larkin. And Thompson, his defense when close is not very good. Like if you watch the Jake Ellenberger fight, is a good one to watch. He hangs about too long. He's got that hands down style, which is great at range because he can see stuff coming from a mile away. But when he's in close, he does get hit. And I think Masvidal is sharp enough to land those shots whenever Thompson does come in close. I feel it's going to be somewhat like the Tyrone Woodley fight, with obviously less power coming from Masvidal. Masvidal's he's gonna stalk him, but he's not gonna be on the fence like Woodley. Obviously, he's gonna stalk him. wait until Thompson does actually start to engage, and then he's going to land his counters, which is more or less what he did when he fought Donald Cerrone. I just think it's not a big bet. I've only got 0.67 on it. It's not confidence, but
big time.
Yeah, I know. Throwing the units about now, aren't I? But yeah, that bet will get me. That will clear a unit profit on a fight. I think's just definitely over 3 rounds. Over 5 rounds, I'd worry about these long stretches where Masvidal doesn't get close. But in 3 rounds, Masvidal's gonna not have to feel the pressure of having to go 5, so he's actually gonna unload when he has to. Like, that's always been his problem in 5-round fights, especially, is that he'll be hesitant to really do much, and he'll be happy with avoiding shots and think that is winning the fight, and then be very surprised when the judges score against him. And it wouldn't surprise me if Thompson wins like a split decision, but I'm confident enough that Masvidal can land the shots that will impress the judges, even if he lands his less shots. So yeah, it's one that it caused me a lot of pain in my mind, because going into the tape study, I thought this is going to be a bet for Thompson, but suddenly watching it, I was suddenly like, Masvidal's going to get into the pocket and he's going to land those sneaky shots that he usually does land, and he can also get into the clinch, because he will land some sneaky little elbows in the clinch that most people don't even think to really throw. And definitely not a karate guy like Thompson. Like, he's got a lot better, obviously, but he's still kind of green to MMA. Like, I know
That's a bold statement.
he is though, isn't he? He's like, like he did karate for so long at that, and MMA is something he's really only picked up somewhat recently. I mean, like, his first MMA fight was, wait a minute,
2010. I'm on it now.
yeah,
So 7 years ago. He's been
yeah.
in the game 7 years, man. That's not green. He's fought Tyron Woodley twice,
Yeah,
Rory
but when you
McDonald.
saw him first come to the UFC and he fought guys like Matt Brown, he did look quite green. He looked like he.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
But
if you
by that
think
point, though,
by
by the time he
2000,
was fighting Matt Brown, he'd only been fighting 2 years. Matt Brown at that point would have been in the game all his life. So I can understand.
but
I can understand that loss.
you compare the experience difference to a guy like Masvidal, who's been doing this since 2003. Like,
Yeah, I get that.
like
Yeah.
he's seen it all. He's been in with every type of fighter. He's picked up their skills along the way. He's training all the
What type of
time with.
fighter has he been in with like Thompson though? I don't think he has. I mean, I ain't got his record up right now. I'm not gonna, I ain't got the list to look through. But Thompson's unique.
Yeah,
I'm not sure there is
well,
many fighters like that.
Darren Cruikshank. That's probably the closest I could get to the
Okay,
karate
that's
style.
not that close for me.
Well,
But
he's got Cruikshank is more of a, I think he's more of a taekwondo guy, but he does have the same side-on stance and kicking-based game. Obviously, you're not going to find anyone exactly like Stephen Thompson. He is one of a kind in MMA, but as far as, and his boxing, it's not that great. I know it sometimes looks great against guys like Hendricks, but against guys like Ellenberger, it didn't look. He looked open to me, and he looks open in quite a lot of his fights in that closed range. At distance, he's one of the best one of the best in the division, probably one of the best around at judging distance and being effective from distance. But if Masvidal can close that distance, and he has to go into this fight knowing that he has to do that, like, I hope he knows what he needs to do in this fight. I trust that he does. Obviously, like, he has so much experience, he's gonna come in knowing exactly what he needs to do. So if he does come in pressuring, I'm pretty confident that he's gonna get the job done. I don't think it'll be a stoppage though.
no, no, no.
Thompson's tough. He will, even if he is hurt, he'll fight like hell to stay in the fight. So yeah, that's my pick is Masvidal by close decision.
Cool. Well, I've got 2 bets on this fight. I'll go on. I'll start. I'll lead with the main one, and I'll move on to the second afterwards. So, the main one, straight up, I've got Wonderboy 2.5 units at -1 to 8, which was a bet boost from -137 or at William Hill a couple of days ago. Again, as soon as I bet it, I posted it. I said to everyone, look, if you're still wanting to bet Thompson, William Hill bet boost at -1 to 8, which is a ridiculous price, I think. But I mean, I think I hate, first and foremost, I hate betting against Masvidal. Like, be sure of that. I like Masvidal. His style's good. Like you say, he's got experience. Just generally, I like watching his fights. So it's always hard to bet against him. But I think in this fight, it was the right thing to do from my perspective, anyway. I just think Masvidal's going to get frustrated against Wonderboy. Even though Masvidal is always the aggressor, I think Wonderboy likes to be as well in fights. So I'm not 100% sure how that plays out.
I think
If
that gets Thompson into trouble, to be honest. I mean, Masvidal feeds on aggression. It's when people try and stay away that he has a lot of trouble.
Well, I'm not too sure exactly how it goes. I think it could be a bit of back and forth. I'm not sure, but I think with Wonderboy, he's got that awkward Kempo karate style. Allows him to move really quickly in and out of strikes. So you saw it a lot with in the Woodley fight. Wonderboy was pressing forward. Woodley likes to fight with his back against the cage, weirdly, but then Woodley would explode forward quickly with a combination, and just like that, so fast, Masvidal will just move out, and it's that style that allows him to do that. He also switches it up as well, which I noticed. So he tends to start off as a southpaw, but he does every now and again switch for a couple of minutes to orthodox before he comes back to southpaw. Personally, in this fight, I'd rather him stay at southpaw because Masvidal's an orthodox fighter, so that open body to the left kick from Wonderboy will be there, and same to the lead leg of Masvidal as well, which could slow him down, slow his boxing down. But I think with Masvidal, he's had problems in the past with kickers. So when it's a an exchange with hands and clinch and stuff like that, you mentioned a good point with he's got these nice short sharp elbows in the clinch. But when he's got that type of fight, that's where he really excels. But he's just like the Larkin fight. I know it was a couple of years ago now, but he had a few problems with the fact that Larkin just kept on kicking him, and that's what Wonderboy's going to do here. And to be honest, I'm not sure Masvidal is at any point going to get his game going. A little bit like the Maia fight, and I'm not talking about kicks now. I'm just in general just getting his game going. When Masvidal fought Maia, he never really got into that final gear where he was looking spectacular. It was almost as if he was getting there, but then it just stalled. And I think we're going to see the same thing here. I think Wonderboy is going to hit with these kicks. He's going to be in and out. He's going to get Masvidal frustrated. Masvidal's not going to end up getting his game going. And I just think Wonderboy is gonna take the decision. I think it's going to be a convincing decision. I don't even think it's going to be split. I just think his movement, his switching his stances, his kicks is just going to stall Masvidal, and Masvidal's not really going to have an answer to it. I think it's going to be a 30-27. I think Wonderboy will probably take every round. That's maybe me being a bit overconfident, but I think it's going to be a unanimous decision either way, even if it's 29-28.
All right, I'm hanging up then. See ya.
The other part to this bet, just really quickly, is something that I know you're not going to disagree with. The other part to this bet is this is the second leg to my Bisping GSP over 1.5 rounds bet. And this is also over 1.5 rounds. So I actually think it goes to the decision. So I really like the over 2.5 rounds as well. But, I think it got over 1.5 at -300. So parlayed with the Bisping GSP at over 1.5.
Yeah, that's a really great bet, by the way. That is
yeah, so I mean, I got that in total at -162, which is just, it's hard to see how that bet doesn't cash.
Yeah, I don't see a finish here. Both these guys are tough as nails. Like, anytime they have been hurt, like Masvidal was quite badly hurt against was it Khabiblov?
Kabilov, yeah.
Yeah, because he got hit, which is actually gonna probably please you betting on Wonderboy. He got hit with a spinning heel kick. So
Yeah.
yeah, so he might be vulnerable to them, but but yeah, he got absolutely smashed by that, and the smile wiped straight off his face. But he toughed it out. And same with Wonderboy. I mean, the how he survived against Woodley was just it
Yeah.
was insane.
And
So there's
Masvidal isn't going to put that
no,
on him like Woodley
neither
put
of
it on
these
him.
two are gonna really put it on enough to force a finish. Definitely not
The
early.
other the other thing as well, I mean, this isn't the most technical side of a breakdown, but it's relevant, I think. The amount of close decisions Masvidal has lost, whether he's deserved to win them or not, that's a different matter. I know for a fact the Iaquinta fight, Masvidal won that fight. I'm not sure how he lost it, but the amount of close fights that he's lost is unbelievable. If this potentially, I'm not saying it's going to be that close because I don't think it is, but it has got the potential to be a close fight. If Masvidal does fight at his best. But it wouldn't fill me with confidence having a bet on Masvidal, this being a close fight and going to a decision just because of the amount of close decisions he's lost. I mean, the Maia fight as well, that could have gone either way. I personally scored it to Maia, but if they're giving it, and I'm talking but if they're giving it to Masvidal, I wouldn't have argued with that either. I actually bet on Masvidal that night as well, so I lost on that.
Yeah, that is a big problem with Masvidal. It's that he feels he's winning a fight just because he's controlling it. Like I don't think in his head. I think it's this sparring partner mentality because he has been a really good sparring partner for years and years and years. So he feels like anything he survives, he deserves points for. So like that like historically has got him to a lot of trouble in fights where he's basically. I think the Larkin fight is a really good one for that because I actually scored that for Larkin, and he was pretty annoyed that it didn't go his way, but he just wasn't landing the effective shots. Yeah, he was at times making Larkin look silly, but that doesn't win you fights. It shouldn't. Like swagger doesn't win fights, and
Exactly.
it's like I do worry about that with Masvidal. In any time I bet on him, I'll always worry about that. Like if he thinks he's in control, he could let any fight slip away. So that's why I would never put a full unit on him. Like that's why I've been so stingy with this bet. It's like Masvidal has this ingrained way of thinking about fighting that often costs him decisions that he could win. So I get where you're coming from with that as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've not got anything else to add on that. I mean, this didn't really turn out to be that big of an argument. To be honest with you, I was surprised that you bet Masvidal, especially because you said you were on Wonderboy. And if anything, I was maybe the other way around. I wasn't saying I was leaning Masvidal because I wasn't. But before I watched tape, I thought originally I said this to you before. Originally, when these two first matched up, for some crazy and strange reason, I thought Wonderboy had this big height and reach advantage over him,
Yeah,
and I
so
don't know
so
why.
did I actually, but all it is that he judges range so well.
Yeah, he's a distant management expert,
One of the
and
best.
and that's another reason why I think if Masvidal does come at him, he'll manage that distance, he'll choose his shots, and ultimately take that decision. And that's my final pick. I
It
think
is
Wonderboy takes a unanimous decision.
it is kind of interesting how we both before the fight were the other way around, and then we watched tape and we completely switch.
Yeah,
Just shows how people can watch tape and come up with a completely different conclusion. One of us is going to
absolutely.
look very silly after this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, what's your final pick
But
before we
yeah,
move on?
final pick Masvidal, close decision. Like a split would not surprise me. Probably a 29-28.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I hope you don't miss your 0.67 units. Right, you called that one. I'll let you call the next one because I haven't got anything on it. I've got an opinion, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm very high on Borrachinha. Like if you just look at like him for a few seconds, you'd probably just see a slugger, just a brawler, just someone who runs in and throws punches wildly. But he's not. He's actually quite an intelligent swarmer, and you don't get. You don't get those in MMA very often. He will judge distance, he'll pull his punches, he will feint, and then he'll pull the trigger. And against Bambose, he was very smart in that fight because Bambose was shelling up fully, like elbows high, and he was just banging that body, just sapping that stamina. He
Yeah.
wasn't just wildly throwing punches to the head. I think in this fight, he's basically going to take out Hendricks in the first round. Like, Hendricks just doesn't look the same fighter he used to be, and like that, you could come up with any conclusions for that. Like, he could, obviously the weight issues. Obviously, some people would think USADA as well. Like, he just looks like an old man in there. He doesn't look interested in actually fighting anymore, I think. And now he's coming up against a young, hungry fighter who is so much bigger than him. Like, Borrachinha is a beast for middleweight. Like, he's tall and he's just stocky and muscled. He looks like something out of like a Marvel comic book. It's like, the only thing I worry about with Borrachinha is his gas tank. He does tire pretty quickly, but I think the pace that he's gonna set on Hendricks will make them both tire. So as long as Hendricks doesn't catch him early, and I don't think he will with that distance management, I think they both will be pretty tired if it goes late. And if that happens, Borrachinha, he keeps his head pretty. I know he didn't in his tough Brazil fight. He didn't keep his head very well, and
He's
he
a different fighter from
he
them, though,
is
isn't he?
in back then he was a 3-0 fighter coming up against a 14-0 fighter. He was he did sort of give up in that fight. He stopped really trying to win, but he was basically a grappler back then. If you see his two fights in tough, he was all about trying to take people down, to get on their back, and this striking game he's developed really fast. He's
Do
someone.
you know what? It's through Jungle Fight that, and we're seeing a lot of fighters coming out of Jungle Fight. I don't know what it is with that organisation, but these guys that seem to be coming over to the UFC from that organisation just seem to be just wild, crazy, and just fun to watch. And I know we didn't see it so much in his last fight, but from the last card, Davison Figueiredo, he came from Jungle Fight as well, and he has that same mentality. He couldn't really,
Did
do it so much against Brooks because of the wrestling, but we'll see more of Davison. And like I say, if you've really dug in with tape with that guy, you'll know what I mean. He's a wild, wild, wild dude, and it's the same with Borrachinha. All these fighters that seem to be coming out
that's
of Jungle
that's
Fights
the thing
just
about
seem to be crazy.
Borrachinha. You'd expect him to be a wild fighter, but there seems to be quite a lot of intelligence behind the chaos. It's sort of in a
When I say wild, I just mean like overly aggressive coming out. He knows
yeah.
what he wants to do. He wants to take your chin
He's
off,
there to
and
knock you out. He's not there to
yeah.
scrape a decision. He's there to punish you.
So what have you actually got on this then?
So I've got 2 units at minus 200 on Borrachinha, and I know
Question then.
what's that?
Why didn't Question for you? Why didn't you take the prop at minus 120? I think it is.
What inside the
It,
distance? I looked for it. I didn't.
well, no KO,
Oh right,
KO
yeah,
prop.
I didn't see it when I was putting on the bet.
Okay.
I did look for it, but
Because I don't see any. I personally don't see
well,
any way
I do.
Borrachinha wins a decision here.
I do if he tires and Hendricks tires too, I could see them basically both hands on knees, sort of trying to push their way through the. Hendricks usually can go to distance, but he's another fighter who likes to take these long rests in his fights. Like, he can't put on a pressure for the entire fight, and Borrachina's not going to let him rest at any point. So I could see them both getting tired and pushing it on to a decision. So I'm glad I've got that slightly covered. It's a long
Okay,
shot.
it's an
It's
interesting
a long
take.
shot that that's going to happen, but
Yeah,
I could see it. It's sort of like when you bet on a heavyweight fight, you feel like it's either going to end within the first 2 minutes or it's going to drag out for the entire 15. So I could see it
yeah.
sort of turning a bit like that.
Well, my take on this. Borrachinha, again, like you, like everybody else that we speak to on MMA Twitter, everyone's a fan of this guy, and that's just because of the way he fights. Like you said, is that tall, huge, young, up and coming fighter that just goes out there when he's standing across the cage from his opponent. All he's thinking about is knocking the chin clean off. Everybody loves that guy, and I'm no different from the rest. The reason I've not bet it I agree with all these points. Everybody's points about Hendricks. He's old. He's declining massively. He's just been knocked out by Bosch, who's, in my opinion, not as good as Borrachinha. I get it. I completely get it. I completely agree with it. Now, one fight that sticks in my mind, and I know they're not the Borrachinha and this fighter aren't exactly the same, but they have similar qualities. The one fight that sticks in my mind is Hendricks and Lombard. Hendricks, I don't think, is any worse now than what he was when he fought Lombard. Lombard has that aggressive power, one round fighter, maybe two if his first round isn't too nuts. Bit similar qualities to Borrachinha. I think Borrachinha will probably go a bit longer than Lombard though. But
big size difference between Lombard and Borrachinha though.
There is, but there's also a big wrestling difference as well. Now Hendricks managed to get Lombard down, and Hendricks managed to win a 3-round decision on Lombard. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen here, and I'm just going to put it out there right now that my pick is Borrachinha. It is by KO, and it is in the first round. So exactly what you and probably everyone else are thinking as well. But just a couple of question marks on his takedown defense. We saw Bamboze take him down, which is quite funny, to be honest, in a fashion, because Bamboze isn't. I wouldn't even like to call the guy a striker, because I don't think he's that technical at that. He's definitely not a wrestler or a grappler.
There's also the fact that Borrachinha did not expect Bamboze to ever try and take him down.
Yeah, there's that argument. But from my point of view, I've seen him get taken down by Bamboze. I'm not sure if he would have got up to his feet as quick as he did if he wasn't against the cage as well. And then I've also recently seen Hendricks take Lombard to a decision as well, which, again, it just raises a few question marks for me. It's not something that I think is going to ultimately definitely determine the fight, because it's not. And like I say, I'm picking Borrachinha. But from a betting point of view, I just thought I'll sit back and enjoy that one. Because again, it's coming back to my style of betting. I hate betting against a wrestler, and I know Hendricks isn't as relentless as what he once was, and he's not as good as he once was, but he's a wrestler nonetheless. And I've just seen Borrachinha get taken down by Bamboze. It just raised a few questions in my mind, and I just didn't want to make this bet, and then the off chance happened that Hendricks just takes him. He did it against Magny as well. I know Magny's Magny, and I could talk all day about how much I don't like that guy, but I don't know. There was just a few question marks, really. I think your bet's pretty safe, and also anyone else that's bet on Borrachinha as well. Props to the American guys that got him at -135 and -145, because I would have actually bet it at that. I would have bet him at those odds. I would have taken that risk, but at -200, like I say, I'll sit back and relax for
that. Okay. Yeah, I've basically said everything I think I've got on this one. It's well, the only thing is the Borrachinha is actually pretty good on the ground. I think he hasn't really shown it in his UFC fights, but he did look like he looks like he knows what he's doing when he's down there. So it wouldn't surprise me if he can get back up. And trying to hold down someone that much stronger than you is. I know Hendricks was a very strong welterweight, but this is it's a whole other level. I mean, Borrachinha looks like he could fight at light heavyweight if he wanted to. Like, he looks like a guy who's probably cutting more weight than anyone else in the division.
Yeah.
So
I think people are expecting him to be busted as well from USADA. But
that physique does look impossible. Let's be honest.
Okay, so right, we'll move on then.
You can lead off on this one.
Okay, so James Vick, Joe Duffy. Before pre-tape, I wasn't totally sold on any of the guys. I did lean Duffy very slightly, but I thought it was going to be one of those fights where tape does actually really bring out one guy. Every now and again, I have that sort of feeling when I'm watching tape that that one fight is really just gonna really stand out. And it did. I've got 2.5 units on Joe Duffy. I bet him at -162 this evening. I just think looking at the two guys, Vick's got he's huge for the division. He's going to have a 5-inch height advantage on Duffy, 3-inch reach advantage. But personally, unlike, we were talking about Wonderboy earlier, I don't think Vick manages his reach as well as he could. I don't think it's bad, but I think it could definitely be better. He does tend to let fighters, his opponents close in on him. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Duffy's going to be the aggressor. I don't think Vick fights very well moving backwards. Like I say, I think he's going to let Duffy close in. Duffy's got, he's 7-0 pro boxer. I know it's not the most prolific record, but the fact that he has boxed professionally, and then I've just been reading his sparred with Eubank and other boxing legends as well. So he's got that stand up on him, and I don't think. I mean, Vick's a two-time Golden Gloves winner as well, but I just think that Duffy's just at the higher level of striking. I can't see the fight going to the mat. I think if it does, I still give Duffy the advantage there. Vick, I think he scored his very first takedown against Abel Trillo, and it was funny at the time that happened, because I'm sure his corner was screaming. I thought, being buzzing that he'd finally got his first takedown in the UFC. So Vick's not going to engage in or trying to get Duffy down to the ground. I don't think. We never know, I suppose. We never saw Bambose taking Borrachinha down like we just discussed, but I think it's there for Duffy if he wants it, though. I think if Duffy somehow ends up in trouble or it's not going his way, he's got that as a backup. He's got a lot of submission wins as well, more earlier in his career. But I just think Duffy's just going to have too much for him on the feet. I think you look at Vick as well. The two decent guys he's fought in his career have been Chiesa and Beneil Dariush, both BJJ guys, both knocked him out. And I just think what's a boxer going to do if jiu-jitsu guys are closing the distance and knocking him out? So
Chiesa was a mounted stoppage, wasn't it? Just
was it?
Yeah.
Okay. But still, Benny was, a good example of closing the distance and really putting it on him. And I think Duffy's gonna. I'm not sure. I've got it down as a late TKO. It wouldn't surprise me if it went the distance. But yeah, I think Duffy's gonna have too much on him. And just another point I quickly want to mention as well. He trains at TriStar, and I'm really high on the guys that are training under Faraz Zahabi there. They're obviously one of the best MMA gyms in the world, but they game plan really, really well. They're obsessed, from what I hear, with studying opponents. I don't think Vick's that difficult to game plan against, so that helps as well. That puts something on the side of Duffy for me. The fact that he's gonna. I know he's, like you mentioned earlier. When you with the GSP thing, you want to bet. When you put a bet on your guy, you want to be confident that he's going to step into the cage and he's going to do what he's supposed to do. And I have that confidence with fighters coming out of TriStar, because I can sort of imagine exactly how they've been set up to fight. They've been set up to win the fight in a specific way. So when Duffy steps in that cage, I'm just going to be confident that he's going to do it. So yeah, 2.5 units on Duffy. I think a late TKO is finally going to get inside, put it on Vick, and I think he's going to finish it. What about you?
Yeah, this is another one of my bets as well. I think it's basically going to just be a straight up boxing match between these two. And like, with tall guys who do not judge their distance well, someone who moves their head as much as Duffy is going to cause a hell of a lot of problems. Like, I just see Vick stepping in with his jabs and straights, Duffy just that head movement getting right underneath it and just lighting him up with counters all night. Like, I think it's going to look like the Dariush fight, but maybe be dragged out a little bit longer, because Dariush does hit pretty hard. So
yeah.
But yeah, I just see this being Duffy just tooling on Vick until it's finished. It's just I don't see what Vick's going to be able to do to really put Duffy off his game. Like against Dustin Poirier, Duffy looked really good early, but Poirier had something to take him out of his game. He had that.
Yeah, he busted him up pretty well,
Yeah,
didn't he?
first of all in the clinch, and then he took him down and really busted him up on the ground. But I was actually surprised how competitive Duffy was in that fight. Rewatching it, I thought when I watched it the first time, I thought it was quite just Poirier smashing him for the whole fight, and it did end up like that in the last round. But Duffy, he had a good account of himself against the best fighter he'd ever fought, and now he's in with James Vick, who, to be honest, other than his guillotine choke, I think it's a guillotine choke he's really good at. He doesn't really have much else that other than his boxing, so yeah, I think Duffy's just gonna light him up. And if the unthinkable happens and it does hit the ground, Duffy's pretty good there too. So yes,
Yeah, I mean the only reason I haven't gone bigger on Duffy than 2.5 units is purely for the fact that Vick is so much taller, and it does. I think there's a big skill difference, um, obviously in favour of Duffy, but it is always, fighters can sometimes struggle when someone is that much bigger. The reach isn't so different, but the bottom line is Duffy's still got to punch up, which obviously everyone
yeah,
everyone knows you lose power by having to punch up. So for me, that's the only reason I've not gone bigger on it. I don't think Vick's going to win. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bet Duffy, but that's the reason I haven't gone 3 or 4 units, because if we put them both at the same height and then you look at the skill difference, this is a comfortable win, for a more than comfortable win for Duffy. The fact that Vick's just that little bit taller, sort of.
and I feel like the type of fighter who's gonna struggle with height is someone with much more basic boxing. Like Duffy's been in, like I'm sure he's sparred with a lot of taller guys, and he like being
Yeah,
like so I know he's not the most accomplished boxer in the world, but you can just watch him fight and see the little movements he makes and just the pure confidence in having his hands down. You can tell a good boxer straight away when you look at Duffy. And like if yeah, a guy like Reyes is gonna struggle with Vick's height, but someone as well schooled as Duffy, I feel like he's gonna have all the tools needed to negate that reach. And Vick is not
yeah.
that good at using it anyway, so I'm not
I
that
mean, do
concerned.
you get where I'm coming from
Yes,
though?
it
I mean,
is
if
awkward
they were the
for.
same height, this wouldn't have been a 2.5 unit bet if they were the same height.
Yeah, true.
I guarantee that. So I've just thrown a little bit of caution to the wind, a little bit of
Yeah,
respect
I've
for,
only put two
you know.
units on Duffy anyway, so I can't really complain about that.
So how do you see it finishing?
I see Duffy taking him out in the second round. I'm gonna say second. It wouldn't surprise me if it was the first round, but yeah,
Really?
I
Okay.
see him put.
I'm going third. I'm going early third TKO.
Okay, we'll both cash if either happens.
Definitely. Okay, we'll move straight on. I'll let you call it because, again, I've got an opinion. It's possibly quite a funny opinion, but go on, you've got the
Well,
bet.
I don't have a massive opinion on this. I watched about three of uh, Oleksiy. Go on, say his name for me.
We'll go with. I think it'll be Oleksiejczuk.
Oleksiejczuk. Okay, I've seen
Potentially, we'll call him Michael.
I've
Call
seen
him
three
Michael.
of Michael's fights, and in all of them he did not look good. He has this southpaw sort of almost Conor McGregor like. He'll sort of paw with the right and try and land the left, but as soon as the pressure heats up a bit, he turns into this completely wild brawler with no defense, nothing. Like against Cutelaba, you're not gonna take him out with just single straight left. You're gonna get into a firefight because he has probably the best chin in the world. I don't know. He just nothing, anything that he's hit with, he just his head will shake and he'll just look back at you and keep walking you down. He's incredible. It might not mean a long career, but as he's like 24, I don't see him getting knocked out anytime soon. And I just see him walking this guy down and landing in exchanges until he finishes the fight. This is the other part of the parlay that I threw in with Garbrandt just because it seems just such a foregone fight, really. It's not. I don't see what Michael can do to win this fight at all. I'm just,
I couldn't
I've got no
I couldn't
points.
agree with you anymore. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm the same. I don't really have much to say. I'll tell you how it went down. I've loved Ion Cutelaba since his debut. I'm not, I'm not going to be one of those guys like, yeah, watching regionally and all that. I didn't. He came into the UFC. I liked him instantly. Liked his style. Love watching tape on him. So I'm pretty high on him. I'd like you say, iron chin, good striker, decent grappling as well. Now, I watched I watched Michael's tape, and this is basically how it went down. I'm not sure what fight it was. I can't remember. It was a fight on YouTube, and I literally watched just less than a round and just stopped my tape study. I don't really like to shit on guys, but what I saw off that one round was just absolutely
he
awful.
just
For some reason,
not
I
UFC
thought
level,
this.
is he at all?
Well, yeah. For some reason, I thought I assumed that there was some hype on this guy. For some reason, I don't know where that's come from, and even if that's true now, I've seen it. I laughed, and it's not often that I watch tape, and I just laughed at how untechnical his striking was. He was just brawling with this guy, and it was just like I just looked at it and just thought, wow. And like I said, after a round, switched it off. Assumed Cutelaba would be about
Was
minus.
it the fight
If
with wait a minute.
you say his name, I'll probably recognise it.
Yeah, we probably did watch the same fight. I haven't actually. Oh, Ricardo Nosiligia? Not
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
he did get caught pretty badly and just he went wild. He looked like
Honestly, it was it was ridiculous. And at that point, I've written my notes. I thought that Cutelaba was going to be minus 800. Opened at minus four, been betted
he
up
should
to
be
over
minus
minus
800.
five. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm not betting it because I don't see value in
Yeah, I just
in
threw it
this
to
fight.
prop up a parlay. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't.
and I get that.
It's like obviously anything can happen in MMA, so you don't want to throw a bunch of units on a odds like that. But if you need something to prop up any parlay, this is the one to pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Cutelaba is gonna fuck this dude up,
Yep. D-
and that's
if
it.
you
That's my final
if
pick.
you'd seen a bit more, you would see he does try to measure a little bit, but he has no composure with it. Like he's not. As soon as someone goes to attack him, he'll just brawl it out really openly, chin up in the air, and it just all falls apart. So and Cutelaba is someone who's going to do that to you. He's not just going to let you sit at a
And
range and pop him with little
And
shots.
let's just say, for argument's sake, that Cutelaba isn't getting the better of the striking exchanges, which on absolutely no scenario at all I see that happening. But hypothetical, let's just say he does. He's got a decent ground game as well. He could take Michael down and he could submit him. In fact, he's got a couple of decent submissions on his record as well. So yeah, like you said, absolutely. I think potentially this is the more foregone conclusion from the entire card, and that's even including Joanna. You know how confident I am on Joanna winning, but I think Cutelaba's, I think is the biggest. I hate using the word, but the biggest lock on the card by a mile.
Yeah, it's one
Um,
of the most one-sided fights I think I've seen watching tape. Like
it's just ridiculous. I mean, when you think about the fight that we were supposed to be getting, Cutelaba and Antigulov, and now we've been left with that.
yeah,
It's so
it's
frustrating
clearly
because
just a
our
throw a guy in, grab any guy you can find, and throw him
I
to the
mean, I
wolves.
absolutely hated that Cutelaba and Antigulov fight because as much as I love Cutelaba, as I've explained, I'm the same with Antigulov as well. I love his style. So when that matchup got announced, I sort of loved it but hated it at the same time. But then obviously Antigulov pulled, and I was gutted because do you know what? I don't know which way I'd have bet with that, but
No, not me.
it doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter now either. But yeah, Cutelaba round one knockout.
Yeah, basically saying yeah. I don't see this going past the first. I might have to check the
Um,
props on that. Maybe bet a specific round one finish. I don't know. I haven't seen any odds for that, but
No, they will not been on yet. It'll probably be Thursday,
yeah,
maybe
that will be
for
something to
those who
look
go.
at
Yeah.
if it comes out. I'm very confident that this is not going past the first round. So.
And you know what? I think Cutelaba's last fight, I bet him in the distance, and it cashed pretty easily against Frankenstein, who even Gokhan Saki, struggled to put out, which again speaks volumes. So I did say I'm all betted up. I've got 5 bets, which is more than what I like to have on any card anyway. I never normally like to have more than 4. But if that in the distance is good for Cutelaba, I might have a pop at that. It's definitely, if you listen to this podcast and you're thinking of a fun prop bet with decent odds, just keep an eye out for that. Is my opinion, because it's probably going to happen.
Well, if the inside the distance ain't that good, this is a rare one where you could bet on a single round. Like, I don't like to do that much, but it's if it goes 2, I will be very shocked. Let's just say that.
Well, I suppose, depending on the odds, you might even be able to hedge that anyway. Hedge the second round, but listen, it ain't going past the second. Absolutely not. Again, do you know what though? The under 1.5, interestingly, opened up at -105. So I'm told, and it got betted up to -250, I think. But
I bet it did.
But I would have maybe took it at -105, but I don't think I'd take it now. And the only reason being, and this is just my logic behind betting under 1.5s, and I would advise throwing caution to this as well if you're thinking about betting this. I only like betting I only like betting under 1.5 rounds in fights where I believe both guys could get knocked out. Cutelaba ain't getting knocked out. Like you said, he's got an iron chin. I don't see too much value in going the under for this, because only one guy can get knocked out, and it mathematically reduces your bet by 50%. So I wouldn't bet that.
No, yeah. I was about to say the same thing. Like, when you have a fight under 1.5, you sort of want both guys to run in and either one to get clipped. But
or like, for example,
can get clipped by like a missile, and he'd probably just stand there and smile at you. So,
like the Gokhan Saki and Frankenstein fight, for that was slightly different. I was anticipating either Frankenstein to get knocked out by the world class kickboxer, or I was expecting the world class kickboxer to get submitted by the BJJ guy.
Yes.
So
same.
For that reason, same sort of thing. But yeah, either guy to be finished, and Cutelaba's not going to get knocked out, and he's not going to get submitted. So I would just be really cautious about that under 1.5. But I think that wraps it up for our breakdowns. We can just move on to the quick fires now.
Yep.
Not a lot of back and forth. So we've got Harris and Godbeer. The first fight, I think Harris is going to knock him out. Even though Godbeer is English, I'd love to love him, but I don't think he's that great of a fighter. Harris doesn't have the best chin, but I just think it's enough to beat Godbeer here. And I think Harris will knock him out.
Yeah, when this fight
second round.
When this fight was first announced, I thought I was going to be really high on Harris, but Godbeer is a little bit better than I thought he was, and yeah, this is heavyweights. I don't like betting average heavyweights against other average heavyweights. It's just, I could see either of these guys actually winning with the edge to Harris, but yeah, I'd stay away from this one.
So for me, I'm going Harris knockout round 2. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Harris round 2. It wouldn't surprise me if Godbeer does actually get the win, but no confidence. Don't really care about the fight.
Just sit back and enjoy. Yeah. Next one, we've got Randy Brown and Mickey Gall. I'm going to take Randy Brown in this. It's a close fight, and the odds suggest it as well. The only reason I'm not taking Gall is just he's 4-0, and I just don't think. And also, one of out of that 4-0, 2 are in the UFC, and one of that 2 is CM Punk. So for that reason, I can't pick Gall, but I definitely wouldn't bet this fight, because Gall has got good jiu-jitsu. So if he does get Brown down, maybe he can submit him, but then Brown's got good takedown defense and he's lanky. So, no, for me, not betting, but I'm going Brown by decision.
Yeah, I think Brown could probably use that. I think has he got a bit of reach on Gall? I'm pretty sure he has.
Yeah, but not as much as you
Oh,
think.
but like Gall, he's not a very good striker. You can tell he's very green. He showed a little bit of power against Northcutt, but yeah, I think Randy Brown will probably outpoint him on the feet. If it does go to the ground, I do rate Gall on the ground, but outside who did he fight? Was it Gordon Ryan in a jiu-jitsu match quite a few years ago, and he survived very well. And Gordon Ryan is one of the best in the world, so on the ground, yeah, he's pretty good. He hasn't shown it against too much quality in MMA, but I think if this hits the ground, he will probably get the win. But I,
I think CM Punk's quality opposition.
no, funny enough, I know he's got quite a few submissions in his WWE career, so maybe we are underselling him a bit.
Maybe. Maybe.
But yeah, I'll edge Randy Brown. But if Gall can get him to the ground, I'll it'll probably be Gall's fight. But it's both two green fighters. Neither of them have proved that much against quality opposition, so it's not a bet that I even considered making at any point.
Quickfire pick.
So quickfire pick. I'll go for Randy Brown by decision.
Cool. Next one, we've got Oleksiy against Curtis Blaydes. I was actually going to bet Curtis Blaydes in this fight. I had him listed in my notes at -150 because that's where I thought that the value would be at. He opened up at -300, boosted up to like -500. Absolutely not a prayer. I'm touching him at that. Oliynyk is one of my favorite guys in the UFC just because of his crazy submissions. He's a fourth dan black belt in jiu-jitsu, traditional jiu-jitsu. He's got 42 wins by submission in MMA. He's just fucking nuts. I'm going Blaydes by decision, but with me now not betting it, I'm going to be rooting for Oliynyk just because I like the guy. What about you?
Yeah, like before tape, I was thinking Blaydes would be my parlay guy, but no, I do actually see some opportunity for Oliynyk to win this fight. I mean, first of all, standing, Oliynyk does sort of fight like a wet cat, but when he does land, he does actually do some damage. Like he hurt Travis Brown and he knocked out Jake Rosholt. So if he and Blaydes is just as bad of a striker, really. They both clearly don't really know what they're doing standing. So I could very much see Oliynyk actually landing something on the feet. And then there's like in the clinch, Oliynyk will snap up that Ezekiel choke from the clinch. So there's always some danger there as well. I mean, if he just gets that lock up in the clinch and pulls guard or pulls mount if he wants, because he will get you from mount too. He's the only guy who you are in a lot of trouble if you mount him. So yes, it's not a bet for me. Blaydes will probably win. He's the younger, stronger guy. Seemed to have a good chin against Ngannou, so it's just at those odds, there's that slight chance he could lose, and that's all you need at those odds. So the pick is Blaydes, probably by decision, but no bet.
Cool. Next one, we've got Ovince Preux against Corey Anderson. Honestly, if there was a scale of how uninterested I am in this fight, it would be very high. I don't really know. I'll go Anderson by decision. I've not really looked too much into it. Not that I'd really need to anyway, because I know enough about the guys. But I'm not sure how it goes down. I'll favour the wrestler to get the takedowns.
I was quite impressed of OSP's ability to wrestle against John Jones, but then he goes in against like Ryan Bader or Glover Teixeira and gets completely out grappled. So it's an awkward one, but standing OSP's got quite a clear edge.
Yeah.
If he can avoid enough takedowns, I could see him getting the stoppage because Anderson just has a very bad chin. So and OSP does hit hard. I know he throws his punches from weird angles. He often leaps in with his shots, but when he does land, he does do damage. So yeah, my pick is probably OSP second round, but no confidence. Don't really care about this fight either. Like whoever wins is probably not going anywhere. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Probably one of the more. I know you mentioned it. I agree with probably one of the more interesting quickfire picks. Again, not spend too much time on it, but yeah, we've got Aiemann Zahabi, who's the younger brother of the owner of TriStar Firas, against Ricardo Ramos. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Zahabi by decision. I just it's so tough because they're both so tricky, and this is the reason why I haven't bet it. But I just think maybe Zahabi's ceiling's a bit higher. Again, the TriStar thing that I mentioned earlier with Duffy that I always seem to favour because the game plan perfectly. With this being Firas's brother, it wouldn't surprise me if he had that little bit more extra attention maybe. In camp, there's 3 TriStar fighters fighting on this card, so I would. It's tough to say. I wouldn't like to assume, but potentially maybe have a bit more attention on him, especially being the greener fighter. So yeah, Zahabi by decision, but Ramos could easily take this as well. What about you?
Yeah, I actually did look into this quite a bit, and at the end of all the tape, I still had no idea who was going to win. I can see it being a very slow fight. Actually, they're both very composed fighters, but I give a slight edge on the feet to Ramos, and a slight edge on the feet to Zahabi, a slight edge on the ground to Ramos. But I don't. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight, and I'm not sure if Zahabi is gonna do enough to win because he got grinded down a little bit in his fight with Vieira, but he does have amazing one-shot power. Like he barely throws, but when he actually does throw and land, he seems to always hurt the guy.
The thing is with the Vieira fight as well, and again, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just the one thing to mention, because you're right, he didn't do enough against Vieira, but I think he was really hesitant with the fact that Vieira was threatening with takedowns and Vieira could take
Well,
him down.
Ramos might go
So
for a takedown too. He's very good on the ground. So
yeah, and if he does, then yeah, we could be seeing a similar Zahabi in this fight as we did in the Vieira fight. But like I say, it's the lines are almost a pick 'em. It reflects the
it is
fight.
correct. The lines are
Again,
good on this fight for sure.
I'm gonna go out there and say it just for anyone that that don't follow me on Twitter or talk to me in general. I've got a curse with first round fights. Betting them is the truth. There's no fucking two ways about it. If it's the first fight of the night and I like the dude and I bet him, he's probably going to lose. So absolutely not a prayer that I'm betting this fight. But yeah, Zabi by
Yeah,
decision.
it's
Just
one of those really frustrating fights where I watch so much tape and then at the end I'm like, well, it's a pick'em, and the odds say it's a pick'em,
yeah,
so I guess that was 2 hours wasted. But but yeah, I'll give a slight edge to Zahabi as well. Uh, he does seem to be just slightly better on the feet, and that's where I think it will be fought. So yeah, just a slight edge to him if either guy wins. Either
cool.
guy, I think both of these guys are pretty decent prospects as well. So I think we'll be seeing more of both of them. But yeah, no bet.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up. Our first podcast. That's the one that's going to go live. So it's a really fun card. Just to recap for my bets personally, I know you probably want to do the same as well. I've got 1.5 units on TJ Dillashaw. I've got a 5 unit max bet on Joanna. I've got 2.5 units on Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy. I've also got 2.5 units on Duffy as well, and then I've got the 2.5 units parlay of the over 1.5s with the Bisping fight and the Wonderboy fight as well.
Yeah, so I got that 0.67 on Masvidal to one plus 150. I got 2 units on Joe Duffy to beat James Vick at minus 159, and 2 units on Borrachinha to beat Johnny Hendricks minus 200, and got the parlay with Garbrandt and Cutelaba that is at minus 102. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that wraps it up then. Obviously, our YouTube channel's quite new, so if you want to comment or subscribe, anything's going to be appreciated at this point just to get us off the mark. You can follow us both on Twitter. Both of our Twitter handles are in the description on our YouTube channel as well. And just a side note from my perspective, I do give brief written breakdowns of all my bets on my website, which is newsomemma.co.uk. And very quickly, I'm really behind the Pro Fighters League, which was the World Series of Fighting, formerly before he got took over. They're doing a charity event for Fight for Children on Thursday night, I believe. So that's all going to be able to be watched free and live through my website as well. All for a great cause. I told everyone that I would bet whatever I profited from the UFC Sao Paulo event, which was 3.1 units. It ended up turning out, and I've just done that today. So I've just donated to the cause, and there's a donate button on the website as well. So if you go onto newsomemma.co.uk, there's a big massive banner at the front of the website. You can click into that, and it'll take you direct to where the video will be streamed live, and also the donate button as well. So anybody that wants to get behind it can do. And that wraps it up. So we'll be back again for the next card, which is UFC Norfolk. And thanks for listening.